So, Bobby,
Yo.
Miss Beaming Bob, I have a meme for you to look at,
All right.
and I would like you to explain what it reads and what it looks like to
All right.
our listeners.
Okay. We got a guy. Is this just like a half a picture? Okay. Is this Markiplier? Looks like Markiplier. Okay.
It sure is, yeah.
So we got a picture of Markiplier. He looks like he's sitting at his desk recording something. He's got his headphones on. He's talking to no microphone. And at the top it says, "When the South Korean you're dating isn't waking up and the fan was left on all night."
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Okay.
Well, what's the deal there?
Yeah,
what's
I don't
going
know.
on? What's going on with that?
South Koreans and fans left
Yeah,
on all night?
yeah.
Okay, I'm curious.
Something's
I don't-
happening.
Yeah, I don't get that. All
And
right.
and I will say up front, and I'm going to say this again in the script, listeners, if you think you know what's going on already, you probably don't have the whole picture.
Okay.
I've got more for you.
All right.
Markiplier looks a little shocked, you know.
Yeah, he did.
And I am going to critique this meme a little bit,
Okay.
and it's just for the fact that for a long time it was a trend to intentionally make the images in memes low quality.
Okay, yeah.
And this one's poorly framed, bad resolution. It's grainy, messed up. You know, and the thing is, it was fine for a while when that was a thing, but it's run its fucking course at this point, and I don't need to see more memes that are just shit quality like this.
Yeah, we can do better. Come on.
Yeah, we can do better. Like, you make something good looking. Like this one, it's not only badly framed, but like, I don't know if you think this is the rule of thirds or not, but a third of the page is taken by the quote, and it's not on the picture. So
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird and ugly setup and it doesn't look good.
It is, and the thing is, almost certainly the person who made this was able to make a better quality meme, but they did it in this fashion because of the trend.
Yeah.
But for me, it's run its course. Like, I think that maybe we should move on to a new style, like, you know, something that if you're gonna do low quality, maybe there's a new version of low quality you can do. And I'm not talking about like the red glowing eyes with the over saturated and the sharpness fired all the way up and to where it looks like a bunch of dots. Like, I just, anyway, internet, come up with something fun.
Do better.
Yeah, do better. But anyway, fun fact, Markiplier is Korean.
Hey.
Yeah, and his mother has a fun Korean cooking channel on YouTube called Mamaplier's Kitchen.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I've watched it. I've watched it. I love it. Yeah, she is like the sweetest, most adorable person.
Aw.
And I have actually changed the way I cook fried rice just a little bit.
Really?
Based on watching her channel.
Okay.
So, yeah. But getting back to the meme, I love covering these memes that seem so random, and a decent amount of people who stumble across them may not know exactly what is going on.
Yeah.
And even if you do know what's going on, or you think you do, there's almost always more to the story than you realize. We are going to be talking about why the Korean person would be dead, but the Korean state would wake up fine, and what the fan has to do with all this.
Yeah.
And listeners, before you jump to the conclusion that you already know what's going on, I'll say something that might surprise you. The fan is not completely harmless in this situation.
No.
And even those who know what you think you know often avoid the nighttime fan. So, fans are killing Koreans. I know, it seems fucking nuts, right?
All right.
And
Are we talking ceiling fans or like a desk fan that's pointing at your bed?
we're talking
or...
about just like a regular
any
electric
kind of
fan,
fan?
like an
Okay.
electric fan
Like a desk thing?
that's kind of blowing at you, you know, and
Okay.
you know, and just
So it's not the ceiling fan breaking loose and crushing them.
no,
Okay.
no,
All right.
that's not it.
Okay. That's something I worry about.
You know, yeah, no, that's not one of the explanations, and there are explanations for this.
Okay.
I'm certain very solid explanations.
Okay.
But you may be thinking, I sleep with a fan on all night, but I have a Japanese date. We're going to be fine. Not so fast. In 1972, a Japanese newspaper called Mainichi Shimbun reported on the death of a Japanese man who died after leaving a fan on all night. And for years, reports continue to come out of people in Japan being found dead after leaving fans on while they slept.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, electric fans are for peasants. I use an air conditioner. I will be fine. Wrong again. In 1987, Mainichi Shimbun, medical journalist Yutaka Morita reported in 1986 there were 5 cases of people dying from leaving either a fan or an air conditioner on.
Okay.
In Tokyo alone.
They're dying because of the cool air.
5 cases, Bobby.
5.
5 cases, Bobby.
Out of how many people?
Bobby, 5 cases. Okay, sure. Some people are going to argue that this is anecdotal just because in 1986 there were over 30 million people living in Tokyo. But 5 cases, Bobby.
That's a pretty small percentage.
Okay, all right. Oh, you know what? Fine. But even if the number is small, it's worth trying to figure out why people are dying after leaving the fan on all night.
Mm-hmm.
If for nothing else, it at least makes you curious.
Yeah.
According to Lee Young-soo, a professor of emergency medicine in Seoul, said, if you apply a strong fan or air conditioner while your skin is moist, the moisture may evaporate and lower your body temperature. Elderly people and children who have weak body temperature control should be especially careful. I see that face, and we're getting to it, all right? I know what you're thinking, and we're getting to it. The concern is that the rapid evaporation of moisture on your body can lower your body temperature to dangerously low levels, and that is how leaving a fan on all night is causing deaths, essentially hypothermia. But there may be more to the hypothesis than just that.
Okay.
According to the Mayo Clinic, hypothermia is a medical emergency that occurs when your body loses heat faster than it can produce heat, causing a dangerously low body temperature. Normal body temperature is around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius. Hypothermia occurs as your body temperature falls below 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
When it comes to fans causing this kind of body temperature loss, what does the science say exactly? I, fortunately or unfortunately, have a lot of feedback from experts on this one. When the Mayo Clinic definition of hypothermia mentions 35 degrees Celsius as a temperature below which we can consider a body to be hypothermic, Professor Gord Geisbrecht of the University of Manitoba in Canada, who has performed hundreds of cold water studies on the human body and focused on physiological stress caused by low temperatures, says that in order to die from hypothermia, the body temperature must drop by 10 degrees overnight to 28 degrees Celsius. If the body temperature drops by 2 or 3 degrees overnight, for example, due to a fan or air conditioner, a person will not die of hypothermia.
No, you wake up and get a blanket.
Yeah,
maybe turn off the fan.
Exactly. But I was gonna wait to get to that. But that the thing is, it's like if you're going to get so fucking cold that you're about to die, and you're not, I guess, and you're not passed out in front of somebody's yard drunk, you're going to wake up. It's going to wake you the fuck up.
Yeah, I've been cold at night before. I've woken up and thought, ooh, I'm chilly. Yeah. Let me get a blanket.
Yeah.
I didn't freeze to death.
The second time that I ever sleptwalked that I knew of was when I woke up in the game room and I was freezing fucking cold because we didn't have that room heated. And I was shivering, and I'm like, why am I shivering? It's usually so warm in here, and I open my eyes, and I'm not in the right room, and I'm like, well, that would make sense. The cold is going to wake you up.
Yeah.
Now, I contacted the University of Manitoba to get a statement from the professor, and unfortunately, Geisbrecht, whatever his name is, retired on January 1st of this year. Otherwise, I would know how to pronounce his name. Now, while Geisbrecht his work essentially made him an expert in hypothermia. That doesn't mean that everyone in the medical field agrees with his assessments. Professor of Medicine Ao Eun-kong says that hypothermia standard of 32 degrees is not absolute, and there are no experimental results on how much body temperature must drop for a person to die. So, set aside Geisbrecht's hundreds of studies. In order to satisfy AO, we have to have experiments on how cold we need to make a human being for them to die.
No, he wants to freeze somebody to death. For science.
Okay, Bobby. Okay, hold up. If you want to make an omelet, you got to freeze a few humans to death. But I will also go back to a part of what Lim said, the professor of emergency medicine at SN Medical Center that I quoted earlier. Mm-hmm. The moisture may evaporate and lower your body temperature.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that why we sweat?
That's the purpose of that, I think.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty certain that that's the thing it does.
Yeah.
This just in, eating food could result in your body sending acid into your stomach. And it says here that blinking could cause a salty substance to cover your eyeballs. And while blinking, you could be blind for a period up to 0.4 seconds. More on this after these ads for a dangerous and useless supplement. But the argument is that the moisture is evaporating even when it doesn't need to be.
Mm-hmm.
The fan or air conditioner will cause the moisture to dry away even in low temperatures and cause the body heat to drop to dangerous levels. However, according to one professor of family medicine in Korean University Annam Hospital, the breeze from a fan only really drops measurable temperature by 3 degrees Celsius, and that's just the skin temperature with an armpit thermometer. It doesn't actually have anything to do with core body temperature, which is the reason people die from hypothermia.
Yeah.
Other professionals and professors have called the idea of a fan lowering body temperature low enough to kill a person as, quote, impossible. And I'm quoting multiple professors saying this. I can say, quote, for multiple people, and they all have said impossible. But can we get deeper than just armpits? I mean, that's not even second base. I want to get intimate. I want to violate the personal space. Can we do that?
Sure. You got a rectal thermometer anywhere?
Can we? You might be onto something, actually. Like,
get up into that core.
Yeah. Can we get some penetration on this subject? The answer is Australia already did that. Dr. Nathan Morris, Timothy English, Lily Hospers, Anthony Capon, and Professor Ali J. of the University of Sydney published a study in which 12 relatively healthy volunteers, a median age of 29, were subjected to simulated heat conditions. The effects on their perspiration, heart rate, blood pressure were studied. And yes, indeed, we round home plate, not just with a home run, but with a grand slam as their rectal temperatures were recorded.
Hey.
Yes, that's what I call in-depth. Now, it has been found that over the 2-hour course of the study in the simulated heat conditions, the core body temperature of the subjects did lower when an electric fan was introduced.
Yeah.
But not nearly to enough of an extent to cause concerning body temperature loss. And in fact, while fans did succeed in helping reduce the effects of heat strain in hot and humid conditions, fans being used in dry heat conditions actually exacerbated heat-related strain. But when it comes to fans, Jay told Time magazine that, quote, humans sweat, and it is by far the most effective way of cooling the body. If extra air flowing across the skin helps sweat that would otherwise sit on the skin to evaporate, that is a good thing, a great thing. So Jay, in the right condition, is a fan of fans. And it is not just electric fans that have varying levels of effectiveness depending on the heat index. Now, the heat index is a combination of heat of the actual temperature and the humidity involved. Right. And so that is how hot it feels. It's because of differing humidity conditions that swamp coolers do not do dick in the Midwest, but work really well in, say, Arizona. And there are enough people who do not know this fact that grifters can swoop in and sell a little shit box called Arctic Air to people who are trying to cool their homes in like fucking Missouri. As if adding more moisture to the air is actually going to make a hot and humid condition feel better. I wouldn't doubt, actually, if when I think about this, I wouldn't doubt that a significant number of these products have been sold to even Florida, where, as Brandy puts it, it already feels like you're in a mouth. Mm-hmm. So if you live anywhere where the humidity is a factor in how hot it feels, do not buy one of those crappy little boxes that claim to be working as well as an air conditioner, because they fucking won't. They might do you good in, say, a desert type climate, but it's not going to do dick for you anywhere where humidity is a factor. And while I would like to punch the asshole peddling these crappy things in the face, I do not advise listeners to resort to violence, but name calling I will condone. Just nothing prejudice. Mm-hmm. Like, it's fine if you call him a shitty dickhole. That's hilarious. But the point is that if anything dangerous with fans was found in the study, it was the increase of heat strain in hot and dry conditions, and not the core temperatures being dropped so significantly that it could cause somebody to die. In fact, no studies I could find on fans found them dangerous in that way.
I wouldn't think so. You'd think they'd limit the settings or something. They'd be like, well, maybe don't go that high.
There would be some regulation on those fucking things. Like, all it does is it's basically a tiny little windmill that blows air, and it's like, you just don't go over, whatever 800 RPMs. Like, don't do that, because that kills people. But Bobby,
yeah.
As silly as a hypothermia thing sounds, I have come across another theory that's even better or worse or whatever. The risk of fan death is not attributed to hypothermia by everyone who believes in the fan death phenomenon. Some believe that the reason why people are found dead after leaving a fan on is because they have suffocated. Okay. So, in a lot of these cases, they have left the windows shut and the doors shut and the fan blowing on them. And the fan displaces so much oxygen that the person sleeping is unable to breathe properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think I've gone over enough fucking experts on the hypothermia part, and I have the equal number of experts on this part. There's one Korean expert. He's an expert in family medicine who did agree that this is a possibility. But of everybody else, they say, no, fuck no, that's impossible. Like, it's not going to happen. And this is where we get to my expertise.
Okay.
So essentially, the way this has been decided, electric fans were introduced into Japan in the 1920s, roughly. And they have been, since then, attributed to the deaths of people who have fallen asleep with them on. The issue is the fact that in psychology, we often encourage people to run a fan at night because any sort of white noise type of thing can help you continue to relax. Because listening to the house creak or something like that might disturb your sleep. And with our very rigid, structured work schedules in the United States and in many other countries, I imagine, it's important that we get as much sleep as we can in the time we have the time to do it.
Right.
Whereas, like, any tiny noise might disrupt that, but like a nice little white noise, and also even silence can just disrupt it. Whereas a white noise that comes from something like a fan can help with you getting a better night's sleep. And remember when I said there were 5 cases in Tokyo?
Yeah.
So there's a bias that we have. When the first piece of evidence that we think we notice has to be the piece of evidence. It has to be the answer. And this is a psychological issue wherein we can't be convinced by other things. And when we have this habit, when we have the habit of doing this, we also have the habit of screwing up the idea of researching or investigating. Imagine that you walk into a room and there's a dead person in there, and they've had their doors shut and everything, and there's a fan on. That'll almost certainly be this. Besides the body, that'll be the first thing you notice. You'll notice the body and then the running fan, because the fan is making noise and it's moving.
Right.
So your assessment will be that.
Yeah, the fan killed him, obviously.
The fan did it, It was the
There's
fan.
no butler around. It must have been the fan.
Yeah, it was the fan in the bedroom with one of the fan blades.
Yeah.
And so there's this idea that this is a superstition that has died years ago, because a lot of everything that I quoted were experts. They were experts today quoting on the subject, but the events that I referenced were in the 70s, 80s. People don't believe in this crap anymore. Well, in 2008,
Oh, God.
yeah, in June 2008, a police department in Korea reported that a 50-year-old man was found dead in his bedroom. And there was no sign of a break-in. There was no sign of any injuries on him. And they reported publicly that they believed the fan, or the air, in this case it was an air conditioner. They believed that the air conditioner caused him to either die of suffocation, as they put it, or hypothermia, because they believed in this myth that has been around since like the 20s.
Why is it only like the Asian areas? Why is it just them? I mean,
and that's another interesting thing. So when these things when the fans were introduced into Asia in the 20s, they, like I said, you walk into a room and somebody's dead and you can't explain why, and there's this newfangled fan thing blowing shit around, and you think, oh my God, that might be it.
I mean, I guess it could be, but I mean, really?
yeah. But the thing is, like, you have to think, like, there's a brand new piece of technology,
and
then there's an unexplained death in the same room.
Yeah.
Now the problem comes, like, the way that you put it, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that is an absolute correct response when we get to the point that there were 5 cases in Tokyo, when 50 million or 30 million people lived there at the time. 5 quote cases, and like, it's so hard for me to like search in Korean or Japanese. So listeners, if you are fluent in either of those languages and can help me find why this phenomenon, not the why fans are killing people, because that's bullshit, but why it continues to be believed, if you can find something to support that, then I'd love to read it.
Yeah.
But then also, again, if you can find what you think is a study saying that they are killing people, I'll read that too, just because I can't not read. So you were in 2008, right?
Yeah. And
a police department is reporting that this person was killed by their air conditioner, and it's stupid. It's so stupid, and you've got multiple experts saying, even Korean experts too, and I'm going to get on to where the Korean, like how this Korean myth has been propagated, but you have Korean medical experts too commenting on it, saying it is impossible that this is happening.
Yeah. Well, especially now in 2008. I mean, how long have we had air conditioning? If it was really, truly a problem, more people would have died.
Oh, yeah.
And in different countries, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And fans, fans even.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be dead by now. I love air conditioning and a fan.
Oh, yeah.
I'll use them both at the same time. I'd be doomed.
We were talking about it earlier. That's why, and that's like the third thing we talked about. That was like, shit, we're actually going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But it's nuts, the idea that somehow you're going to evaporate your sweat too much, and then you're going to go into hypothermia. and like, even the people who do support this insane idea have they're coming from very bizarre places in terms of reasoning.
Yeah, they'd have to be.
And so it doesn't make any sense at all. But the reason why we're covering this now is because for some reason, and I don't know why, it has had a resurgence lately. And as far as I can tell through like memes and stuff, like reading through the memes, because that's what this channel's about,
Right.
a lot of Korean mothers are still in the belief that their kids could die from leaving a fan on all night.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's a lot of it's based on these newspapers that didn't do a lot of vetting or research or anything.
Well, you should be able to trust a newspaper, right? It's supposed to be reporting the news. So if
Yeah.
it's in there, it should be true.
And what's really unfortunate about this is that multiple newspapers that have reported on this in Korea and Japan have been told by medical experts in their own countries and by foreign medical experts as well that this is impossible. And they have even researched the deaths that were attributed to the fans being on and found that it's almost always like a heart attack, or a brain hemorrhage or something like that.
Yeah, a natural cause.
It's a natural cause that happened overnight.
Yeah. People sometimes die in their sleep. It happens.
Yeah,
It's not the fan. It's not the air conditioner.
Yeah, and one of the most common things is a stroke. Like people, they have a stroke in their sleep and they're dead.
Yeah.
And that shit happens. And it's sad. But you can't walk in and see a fan on and just assume must be the fan. And it's hard to convince somebody once they've already spoken publicly that they believe that that's the cause. It's hard to convince them to say otherwise because people don't want to backtrack on their first.
Yeah, nobody wants to say, sorry, I'm an idiot. It wasn't the fan.
Yeah, which I will gladly say, sorry, I'm an idiot.
Oh, yeah, I have many times. And be like, I was wrong. Sorry.
We did a whole episode of things that I needed to correct. And it's just, I don't know. It's a silly thing. And then, essentially, breaking down the meme, the person wakes up and they're perfectly fine. And it says, your Korean date is dead. The other person wakes up fine because they don't believe in the nonsense. It's not a superstition to that person.
Right.
Like, they probably believe in other nonsense.
Oh, yeah. We all believe some kind of nonsense.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's some shit that I believe in that I'm just like, fuck, why did I ever think that was true?
Oh, yeah. I've had that moment a couple times in my life.
Yeah. There are a lot of crazy theories that have gone about, from different cultural expectations and beliefs. One is that if you clip your nails while your family members are flying to another country, their plane will crash.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Wait, nails? Toenails?
It just
Fingernails?
Doesn't
matter?
It just says nails.
Any kind of nail?
And I dating a Turkish person. Her mother was upset that I had left my shoes with the soles facing up because I just took them off and I tossed them. And the way the shoes were shaped, they always landed soles up.
Oh,
and
okay.
I just didn't give a shit about how they were because I'm like, that's the shoe spot. That's where shoes go. I don't care how they look there. That's where shoes go.
Wasn't a superstition to you, yeah.
Yeah. And but to her, she said that if I leave shoes out with the soles facing up, then somebody in the house is going to die.
Oof.
Yeah. And then there's also the idea of leaving your chopsticks stuck in your food and walking away from the table. You're apparently offering it to the dead, and then if you come back and try to eat more, then you're taking it from the dead.
They're gonna fight you for it.
Yeah, you're gonna get cursed. You're gonna get cursed for it, and it's just it's silly things like that are kind of similar to this fan thing, except for beliefs like this fan theory disguise themselves as scientific in some way. Like they disguise themselves as being a medical or researched thing. And one thing I can compare it to is in China, there was this belief that swallowing your phlegm was really bad for your health. And so Chinese people would just spit all the time.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Right.
So there would be spit all over the goddamn place.
Yeah.
And older Chinese people still do this. And when I lived there, hospitals had signs, I assume they still do, they have signs saying no spitting. Which should not have to be said.
I wouldn't think so, no.
In the hallways.
Especially in a hospital.
Yeah,
I mean,
in the
come on.
hallways of a
on
fucking
the
hospital.
street it might be different, but in a hospital, don't spit on the floor.
Yeah. And older generations, I watched spit directly on the floor at Walmart. So I went to a Fuzhou Walmart. And as I was there were just old people just hawking and spitting right on the fucking floor. And it was
Gross.
disgusting. But it's like that is another superstition that was disguised as a medical belief.
Yeah.
You know? And so there's a lot of this kind of stuff. And so at the beginning of this episode, this is the way I want to close.
Okay.
I mentioned that the fan isn't completely innocent. In fact, one of the experts who was consulted by Chishun said leaving a fan on might dry out your esophagus and nasal pharyngeal areas enough that you could be more prone to getting a cold.
Okay.
And of course, magazines and newspapers had to run away with this and say it also could have a, you know, if it causes a cold, it could have effect on your mitochondria, like, you know, whatever. Like, it's like, come on. Like, your cardiovascular system could be at risk from fans. And it's like, that's not what he fucking said. It's idiotic. But I don't mean to insult Asian listeners. I hope that our Malaysian, Korean, and Japanese listeners continue to listen after this one. But I will say the belief in fans killing people is nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And even some experts were saying just because a fan is left on all night when you find somebody dead doesn't mean it was the fan.
Probably not.
So what do you think?
It sounds like lazy police work, honestly. It was like, this is the guy's last day before vacation. He finds a dead body. He has to solve the case. He's like, fuck, the fan did it.
Yeah. And one
We
thing
got this new
too,
piece of technology. We haven't had fans for very long. That sounds plausible, right? Right? He looks around. Everybody's like, yeah, sure.
whatever, fine.
All right, write it down. Fan did it.
One thing too is that the Tokyo Police Department has and Japanese, I think Japanese police in general, years ago had almost a 100% conviction rate in terms of crimes.
Yeah, sure. If you can blame the fan for it, why not?
and so you have this vexation to keep that going, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so finding evidence where there may not be any may or may not, I don't want to say, because I don't want the Japanese police to, you know, get me when I finally get to visit Japan. But the vexation may or may not be to keep that number going, even if there's not actual evidence to be found.
Man, can you imagine being the guy who broke that record? Who didn't solve the case? Oh, you get fired.
Yeah, and I mean, he'd be a sacrificial lamb essentially.
Yeah,
you know. But that's all speculation. I'm just, you know, please, Japanese police, if I show up there, be nice. I won't do anything wrong when I'm there. I promise. I just, you know, just in case I want to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you all so much for listening. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Watch your back, podcaster. We know what you're up to.